The LA Clippers lost game 2 at home on Tuesday night against the Dallas Mavericks. It was the return of Kawhi Leonard, the first ever Kawhi Leonard in front of a sold-out Clipper playoff crowd game, and it was not the celebratory occasion that we were hoping it was going to be. Dallas Mavericks come in and get a win in what was a slugfest. Going to be talking about it all, what went wrong on today's Locked On 1-1 Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper content, including a video of my experience at Game 2 that will be out on my channel. Got some fans' thoughts after the game as well as some good game footage. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Let me know what you thought of Game 2. Give me everything you thought. What did you think about the way we used Kawhi Leonard? Because we're going to be talking about Kawhi and the clear rust that he showed and just the bad process, the poor shooting, and everything that happened in this game. So let me just start by saying I heard the news that Kawhi was playing, and I was over the moon. I mean, just absolutely ecstatic. I went with one of my good friends that I had on the podcast very early in my run as Locked On Clippers host. And I told him, we could lose this game tonight. The Mavericks are a good team. Kawhi is going to have to be integrated back because here's the inconvenient thing. He's coming back from an injury, right? Or something like that. Whatever it is, the swelling, the inflammation, he's clearly not 100%. And the whole thing about having a player come back so late into the season or in the middle of a series is like, you need to take a couple of games to work off the rust. In the playoffs, you don't have a couple of games. You know, the reason so many Clipper fans I saw were not too disappointed after this game, not too mad, was because the Clippers shot so unbelievably poorly. Like, we shot so unbelievably bad the entire game, 37% from the field and a putrid 27% from three. It's not like Dallas shot super well from the field, 42% from the field, but they shot 42% from three, and that 6 more threes, that made a difference for sure. But there's a reason why Dallas shot better from three than the Clippers. And that reason is because in the second half of the game, and I'm going to say this, I really liked all the defensive coverages that we threw at Luka and Kyrie, except for the willingness. We got burned on it, just like I thought about in this, just like I said in the preview of the series, Norman Harden at times guarding him. It causes our defense to overcompensate. Even if they're not getting scored on directly, we are sending help because we don't trust them to guard on an island. And that can be problematic. And when you send two at the ball, as we started blitzing Luka and pick and rolls as the game went on, we were making other guys try to beat us. And for a large stretch of the game, it was working. PJ Washington was bricking. The Mavericks were shooting terribly from three. And then they started to get going towards the end of the game. And guys like PJ Washington and Maxi Kleber, they made the difference. And that small ball lineup that Jason Kidd went to with Kleber at the 5 and PJ Washington at the 4, we talked about it in the previews with Nick. There was a possibility that the Mavericks are going to go to that. And they have a better small ball lineup than the Clippers have. But I think the main takeaway from this game for me is that Kawhi Leonard just didn't look himself and was not good enough. Nowhere near good enough. And I can forgive the rust, but the process at times with him was just horrific. Like, he was just taking forever to do everything. Just so much ball pounding and just isolation, stand still, some horrible threes. Was not liking the way he was playing at all. What I will say, though, is that his defense was good. So, and the fact that he came out and was guarding Luka as the primary defender to start the game. I mean, that showed me a lot. Unfortunately, one of the things that really hurt us in this game was Ivica Zubac's quick 2 fouls in the first quarter. Zoo was, in my opinion, the player of the game in game 1, and having him off the floor so early, that really hurt us and kind of prevented him from getting in a rhythm, especially in the first half. Mason Plumlee came in and was just kind of getting lit up in pick and roll. And look, you knew that Luka and Kyrie were going to probably play better in this game than they did in the first game. Kyrie Irving's stats may not necessarily reflect that, but Luka Doncic, I think they both played better because defensively they were so much better, the two of them. But you knew they were just going to play better. The Mavericks were going to just bring more effort. And in the first quarter, Luka definitely got the party started, but I do not trust Mason Plumlee in drop coverage whatsoever. Luka had 12 points in the first quarter, but the Mavs, I mean, they were only up 23-19 in the first. But see, that's a slugfest right there. Only a 4-point difference. But yeah, Mason Plumlee, not only was he getting attacked and drop, and it wasn't like he was playing that bad of defense. He just doesn't play good defense. He doesn't deter anything, doesn't put any pressure on the ball, doesn't protect the rim. He wasn't really doing anything great offensively in this game either. Missed a free throw. Did he have a turnover? Let's see. No, he didn't. He was 0 for 3, though, in 11 minutes. Didn't even play the second half. Had 1 point. He did have 5 rebounds, though, but again, it's kind of trivial. It didn't feel like he did anything great. And what I thought was very interesting is that we started to go Plumlee switching onto guys on the perimeter. And it's like, if we're going to do that, want to switch our big, we might as well play Tice. I thought Tice was going to be used in this series. I'm not saying it's the difference maker, but I'm very disappointed. Mason Plumlee, we've seen the signs all season long that the playoffs might be a little too much for him at this stage of his career, and he didn't give us anything good at all. Anything. Let's see what his plus-minus was. -3. So not the end of the world, not too bad, but 11 minutes that I wish I could have Daniel Tice play instead. So yeah, Luka was hitting some step backs in the first quarter. Defense on both sides was good. One thing I got to give the Mavs credit for, though, was we had a couple of shots around the rim, or so I thought were shots around the rim in the first quarter. And the Mavs' help defense and rotations at the basket were really sharp, and they were getting blocks. And that was just a heightened sense of urgency from them, and just that backside protection that they didn't have in the past. With athletes like P.J. Washington and Derrick Jones Jr., they have those kind of things. Kawhi played a different rotation in this game than he normally does. Normally, he plays the entire first and third quarter, but in the first quarter, he came out after the first 7 minutes of the game, while PG played the whole first. So again, things are kind of out of whack here. Kawhi played 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Paul George played the whole quarter. That's not the normal routine. That is not the normal routine. And in the third quarter, Kawhi played a little bit more, 10 minutes and 17 seconds. Paul George played his normal third quarter routine, but we had non-2-1-3 minutes for a sec. So this was just kind of, it was very tough. And again, as I said, Kawhi, a lot of his shots were short. His isolation was just, his isos were just terrible. And it absolutely was a large reason we lost, because we tried to get him going. And I'm not suggesting that he shouldn't have played. I'm not suggesting that we should have brought him off the bench. The thing is this is actually the best time, besides obviously game 1. If he were to come back in the series, you want him coming back as soon as possible, because he's going to, probably have a game or two of rust. But when he eventually sheds that rust off, hopefully it'll be the biggest games of the series, and we'll have him going forward, if we're lucky enough to get out of this series, for the long haul, playing at his highest level, at his healthiest. So, yeah, it was not it. And we are not going to win a game like that. Kawhi Leonard, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 steals, and a block. So as I said, his defense was very good. You felt the presence. 0 turnovers, but just so many awful possessions where it was completely stagnant. The ball's not moving. He's not moving. 0 for 5 from 3, some really bad shots, just 2 free throw attempts. He couldn't get by anyone. And it was so funny. One of you people in the comments, I forget who it was, said that it was asinine for me to say that the Mavs would attempt to try to switch Daniel Gafford onto Kawhi. And they did it one time willingly. And I'm like, and I don't think we got anything out of it. It's like, Why are you saying these things? Have you not watched Kawhi this season that he's barely gotten by players even when he's healthy? He's going to be much better than this, I can assure everyone. And Mavs fans should know that. But he hasn't had the best luck getting by guys like that. And again, PJ Washington with Dallas, he has played better defense. There's no doubt about it. Size-wise, he is the prototypical guy you would like to throw at a Kawhi Leonard. And he did a very good job in this game. Now, granted, do I think that can last throughout the course of a series? If PJ Washington's locking up healthy Kawhi, then conversations need to be had. But I don't believe that's going to happen. I still believe that Kawhi Leonard will get buckets on that fool. I'm joking, guys. Don't take that so seriously, Dallas fans. PJ Washington played well. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 steals for Kawhi, but 7 for 17 shooting and 0 for 5 from 3. That's just not really going to cut it. So my biggest takeaway is that Kawhi Leonard, who it was supposed to be his night, he had some good glimpses, though, in the third quarter. Very good glimpses. We tried so hard to get him going, and it just wasn't it. It just wasn't it. It just felt like we kind of went away from Paul George, who we probably should have fed more. And, yeah, we lost it 96-93. I think when it comes to Kawhi, what really was frustrating was we were trying to go at Luka Doncic late in the game when Dallas went small because their small ball lineup was Kyrie, Derrick Jones, Luka, and then Maxi Kleber and PJ Washington. Josh Green, by the way, I don't think he did anything really good. Dallas fans, you can let me know what you think of that. Maybe he played better defense than I gave him credit for, but he wasn't really worrying me in any way, shape, or form. But as far as the late game stuff, we were targeting Luka, right? We talked about this entire week leading up to the series that target ball, target isolation, target Luka, make him work. Well, Luka stood up to the task. They're letting guys get more physical. They're letting guys use a little bit more hands in the playoffs right now. You can see it in the scores across the league. It's no joke that regular season they just call it differently. And of course, guys' effort is different. But Luka was not getting abused. We were not even getting by him. So when we're not putting the Mavs defense in rotation while we're throwing 2 on the ball on the other side, that's why they're getting open threes. That's why they're making more threes. We're not really getting that many good looks. A large part is because our best player was rusty and wasn't himself. Coming up, though, going to be talking about our trash offense and the rest of the game. I was not happy with Paul George and James Harden either. And I did start out by talking about Kawhi only because I think that's the biggest takeaway, not because I think he's the most at fault. Let me just be very clear about that. Kawhi gets somewhat of a pass for me because it was his first game back. The other two and the rest of the team and Ty Lue going to talk about how it went coming up. I got to tell you a little something about DoorDash. DoorDash is my go-to when I need late night food and I'm really not trying to go out of the house. After I finish recording this, I'm probably going to get DoorDash because I'm so tired. I didn't eat at Staples Center, so I need to get some food before I go to bed, man. And it's not just late night food or food on DoorDash. You can get something for your mom because Mother's Day is coming up and you can use DoorDash to get her something thoughtful. It could be treats. It could be a gift card. It could be a bouquet of flowers. Whatever you need, you can get it using DoorDash. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15+ on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. I got to tell you a little something about Monopoly Go. The greatest board game ever is now able to be played on your phone or mobile device. I've been told I'm a competitive person. In my opinion, I'm the most competitive person I know. And I have a competitive side that comes out in any game that I play. And my competitive side definitely comes out during Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, not two, like LeBron, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly where I used to land on Park Place and get them out of here. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. If you want to be a Monopoly tycoon like Steve Ballmer's a real tycoon, you got to get Monopoly Go. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. All right, Clippers losing home court advantage in a Game 2 loss, 96-93 over the Dallas Mavericks at Staples Center. As far as the game, I think it was actually a better crowd than Sunday, believe it or not. I will say this, though. There was more constant noise on Sunday because the Clippers played so well. Whereas, like in this game with the scoring droughts, especially the second quarter, it did not even feel like a playoff game at certain stretches. And I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Also, the fans that are sitting in the sections that are very visible on TV, you guys are the biggest reason. And I pray that some of you guys that are listening to this are not those people. And if you are those people, you're the people that are actually standing up and putting the shirt on. But it is crazy how the visual has changed looking at our home playoff games from Lob City to now. You couldn't even tell that black shirts were handed out at the game last night. Those black shirts were sick. For all you guys that love that Mr. Cartoon logo, I don't mind it. I just like the classic red, white, and blue Clippers. But that's much better than our Dojo logo that we're getting rid of, thank God, next year in black and white, which makes no sense. The Los Angeles Mr. Cartoon, I like it, and the shirt was so cool. People weren't really wearing it like that. As far as the offense, absolute trash. Because if you look at the defense, we only allowed 96 points. If you allow under 100 points in the modern NBA, you're going to take that all day long. And Luka Doncic, for how well he closed the game and how much better I thought he played, he shot 11 for 26 and 5 for 14 from 3. We forced him to shoot 4, or we got him. I don't want to say forced him because a lot of them were just his decision and settling at times. And in the first half, when he was settling, I was like, if he's going to keep doing this, fine. 5 for 14 from 3. So 14 3-point shots. I mean, we'll take that. Kyrie Irving wasn't even out of control good. He played a very solid all-around game, a very good all-around game. Defensively, big shots towards the end, but 23 points, 8 for 18 shooting, 4 for 8 from 3. You look at the stat lines, it's not that spectacular. That's why this game is frustrating to me. We actually kept them in check. If you keep them under 60 combined with the supporting cast they have that's extremely shaky, you should win. That's why I'm frustrated. We had it. But what's encouraging is that we shot so badly, and we only lost by 3. And our Kawhi didn't even look like an all-star. And Paul George and James Harden, let's talk about them. I mean, I think our offensive process was just awful. One, Ivica Zubac was 1 for 4 at halftime. Okay, this is the guy that dominated in the first game. We're not going to throw him the ball in the post at all just because Kawhi's back, because he missed a couple of chippies. Disagree massively. Keep empowering your big man. As you saw, he started getting going as the game went on. Very unfortunate. Also, something I found interesting was that Ty switched up the coverage because Luka was kind of cooking us in drop coverage. With Plumlee, though, not even as much with Zoo, we started going with Zoo hedging on the screens. And the Mavs started hedging on the screens with Daniel Gafford on Paul George. But Daniel Gafford only played 9 minutes, so that's kind of trivial. I just wanted to mention it. I noticed Kyrie working hard from the second quarter onwards. I mean, not saying he didn't work hard in the first, but that was when I noticed it as a fan of the opposing team because I'm looking at it from the Clippers fans' perspective. But Kyrie was working hard, man. He was playing good D, and you started to see the matchups that we talked about in the preview all week long. P.J. Washington guarding Kawhi, Daniel Gafford on Zoo, Derrick Jones Jr. on Paul George, Luka on Terrence Mann, and Kyrie on James Harden. And I have to say, the Mavericks were doing a good job. P.J. did a good job on Kawhi. Paul George was getting, I don't want to say, he wasn't getting locked up by Derrick Jones, but Derrick Jones was making life tough, and Kyrie was making life tough on James Harden as well. Now, as far as the first half goes, Paul George, I actually thought was pretty decent. My only criticism of him was shoot more. He had 10 points on 4 for 7 shooting. Played 18 minutes of that first half. It's like, you need to shoot more than 7 shots, bro. Kawhi's clearly not 100%. Terrence Mann has as many shots as you. I get it because he's open and he's shooting the shots that are there. But, like, come on. But here's my biggest criticism. I know he had 12 points, but he played the most in the first half. He played the most minutes. He was ball pounding like crazy. And some of the process on the shots that he made or our team made where he whittled the shot clock down to like 5 before giving it to someone or shooting was making me extremely nervous. And of course, I'm talking about James Harden. The ball pounding, like I'm not there to watch James Harden pound the ball. Paul George was 4 for 7. Give him the ball. Give Zubac the ball. I don't care that he was that efficient. The process was so bad. And Kawhi gets no passes either in terms of the process. I'm not talking about the missed shots. Stop pounding the ball so much. So many possessions where they're just dribbling the air out of the ball and killing our flow. Like Terrence, man, not all of his misses are just Terrence missing open shots. Some are that he has to adjust his shot because he's getting the ball so late in the shot clock and can't do anything else. There's a lack of freedom when you give teammates that are kind of limited offensively or not as good offensively the ball in not ideal situations because they've been watching you for 10 seconds pound the ball. It's a pet peeve of mine. And so you know what? Because I'm getting so passionate about it, I can tell you because everybody wants to make ridiculous comments about I'm biased and this and that. No. Here's the truth. I was a ball pounder when I grew up. I always wanted to be an assist guy. I wanted to have the play, the score come from me, from my creation. And it wasn't until I was 15 years old and a coach pointed out to me that I realized that I was being selfish. And the best way to actually get your team involved is by moving the ball and letting everybody feel the rock. Nobody has ever said ISO beats team basketball. I've never heard that in my life. You have to make defenses work on both sides of the half court at this level. To have it just stay stagnant on one wing or one side of the court while Harden and Kawhi Leonard dribble the air out of the ball to the end of the shot clock is unacceptable. And in those isolation situations, which Dallas is forcing us to be in by playing a switch everything scheme, you have to play target ball and attack. We targeted Luka and we failed miserably by we weren't even able to get by him. And here's the thing. I am quite aware of Luka's improved defensive season that he had this year. We saw glimpses of that in 2022 in the conference finals run, where he wasn't as bad as everybody says. But I'm still I'm looking at it from our perspective. If Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and James Harden cannot consistently create shots against Luka Doncic in isolation, chalk it up, and we're done. Pack your bags. I don't believe that that's going to be the case for the rest of the series. We saw Luka Doncic get torched by James Harden in game 1, but all of a sudden James Harden wants to settle for a bunch of step backs against him. The most frustrating possession of the entire game was when James Harden did not pass to Zubac when he had Luka on him after having picked up a third foul, and he took a contested 3. I almost lost my mind. In fact, I did, and it led to a Luka 3. And coming up, I'm going to be talking about that run that made a huge difference involving Russell Westbrook and when he was put in, some big stuff coming up. Jesus, I'm fired up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I got to tell you a little something about BetterHelp. This next segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today I want to say how I really feel about something. I am worried that Kawhi Leonard will not have the time to get back into rhythm. And I'm also worried that even when he does, he might not be able to create the advantage that we think he can because he does not get by guys as much anymore. But you know what? That's not important. There's a lot more important things in this world. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right. Clippers losing this one. The series is now tied 1-1 by a score of 96-93. Now, there is something that we got to talk about, Clipper Nation. And I already talked about Mason Plumlee instead of Tice. Not a fan of that. But let's talk more specifically about the second half. I thought that our offense, mainly because of Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, but also Paul George, so many times in isolation, and it's not just this game. If you watch and listen to my show regularly, you'll say, and will remember how much I've called this out. PG will get the step on his defender, and he's so obsessed with the snatch back that he'll snatch back and it lets the defender recover. When he's got him beat, all he's got to do is just keep going and go into his chest and score. He did it so many times in this game and is taking a tougher shot that he needs to take. This is where there's no margin for error. There's no margin for error. And it's not even just about this game, this series. Let's say we get through this series. To beat a team like the Denver Nuggets, again, you see, if you're watching the Lakers-Nuggets series, you can see how small the Lakers' margin of error is. So I want to see us develop good habits and do smart things. Paul George, I've defended him all year and said, in the playoffs, I think we'll get a good version. So far, through 2 games, mediocre. First game, I thought he was very good. I think defensively he's been great, which at least I love that. But, getting by a guy and then pulling it back, it's very frustrating. Zubats, he did get going in that second half, but there were still some times throughout the game where he was fumbling the ball and just not going up as strong. And I have to say, Derek Lively is showing that he's a better option potentially than Daniel Gafford. He's getting physical with Zoo and caused a little bit of that, but Zoo can still be stronger, better, closer to what he was in game 1. And again, a lot of that is on us as a team. Ty Lue and our stars not looking to get him going, not looking to feed the big fellow the ball enough unless it was a pick and roll. 13 points, 12 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds for Zoo, 5 for 12 from the field, 3 for 5 from the line in 33 minutes. Quite frankly, he had 2 fouls, and that was it. He didn't pick it that he got in the first quarter, and he didn't pick up a foul the rest of the game. 33 minutes? I think that's a little too few. Paul George ended with 22 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and a block. He and James Harden tied for the most points. They both shot 14 times. Paul, however, made 7 of his shots. James made 6 of his shots. Paul was 2 for 5 from 3. James was 2 for 10 from 3. Paul made all 6 of his free throws. Harden made 8 out of 9. And some of the calls that James gets, I can't even believe it. But I will say this. The Mavs got some favorable calls too. And it's just funny. I'm looking at Twitter and I see Mavs fans complaining about all the calls. I see Clipper fans complaining about all the calls. I have never been one in my entire life in a game I've played or in a game I've coached. And I've been a part of some games that were extremely poorly officiated that I feel like I've been slighted. And I feel like, especially as a coach, that my teams have been slighted. But saying that the refs were the biggest reason you lost, to me, is straight out of the loser playbook, and I don't speak that language. We did not lose because of the refs. Kawhi Leonard was not good enough. Paul George is making life complicated. He's not being aggressive enough throughout the game. We needed him to step up, and he did not. No excuses. This is the playoffs. It's not, he played well last week. No. No, none of that. I don't care. And I'm not saying we're going to lose the series. People mistake my aggressive and passionate tone for saying that we're going to lose the series. It's still Clippers in 7, and I'm taking that and standing on it 10 toes. And I don't want anybody that had Clippers in 6 to change their mind too. If you had Clippers in 5, though, I don't know about all that. I said it before and I'll say it again. This is going 6 games bare minimum. These 2 teams are legit. It's going to be a dogfight. I have the respect for the opponents, even though I don't like them very much. And there's, again, a nuisance and thorn in our side. But how must they feel about us? We've beaten them twice. So it's just very frustrating. James Harden and his constant ball pounding. And then let's talk about it defensively, right? James Harden, I think he did a pretty decent job one-on-one guarding guys, even Luka, because one thing we talked about, who is Ty Lue going to allow to switch on a Luka? Well, he let Norm and James Harden guard Luka. At times I had to check my eyes. James Harden guarding Luka as the primary defender to start possessions? What was that all about? I understand that he's good in the post and has good hands, but like, seriously? And then we were allowing him to switch on to Kyrie, and I like that we were doubling that, actually. If we have a switch, instead of just blitzing and getting the ball out of his hands immediately and forcing the defense to make, or forcing our defense to make really sharp rotations, instead, getting the switch and then throwing like the soft double at the top might be easier to rotate. So I actually like that idea, and that's something that we were doing. We were doubling with the certain bad matchups. But again, the stagnant offense mixed with the fact that they were starting to target James a little bit more in that second half. Not that, again, I don't think they really got that much off of targeting James throughout the game, really, but I thought his off-ball defense was poor. He had that really stupid foul on P.J. Washington for 3 when it's like, dude, he has not been shooting well from 3. That's ridiculous. You're way too high IQ to be doing that. And then off the ball, he got lost a couple times in the fourth quarter. I forget if it was the fourth quarter or the second half, just in general, but there was 2 times that he did not get his man got an offensive rebound for them. I'm watching everything, bruh. That extra effort stuff, that is exactly why I'm skeptical of Harden in the playoffs. That type of stuff right there. And then offensively, you got to cater so much to him. We can't play that Harden-centric going forward. It's just, I'm sorry. Here's the thing, but when it looks good, it looks good. But that's the dilemma. I just don't think the process, even when it's good, is that amazing. Unless you are really touching the paint and getting the ball moving like last game, right? Like last game, James Harden was getting the ball in the paint, taking advantage of Luka, but he was also making his threes. And I've said it from the start. A lot of it's about if he's making his threes. As far as getting to the basket, he's just got to do a better job doing that. But, I mean, let's see how many turnovers we had. We had 8. We actually took care of the ball. Harden only had 1. Paul George only had 2. Kawhi had 0. But here's the big stretch of the game, to me that made a huge difference. Russ came in the game. We were playing really slow, and he just turned this whole thing upside down. Actually was pushing the ball, getting us some transition looks. There was one time he got Paul George an open 3 in the corner. Zoo was starting to wake up, and we started hedging on Luka with Zoo, and it was working because we were forcing all those other guys to shoot. And P.J. Washington, I mean, God, he was missing so many easy shots. We were doubling Luka a lot, like throughout the fourth quarter, throwing 2 at the ball constantly. And as I said, the others weren't making shots. And it was actually, for us, like the first stretch ever that was really good from the big 4 plus Zoo lineup. And a lot of it was Westbrook pushing the pace and playing well defensively. We went up by 6, 73-67, and I thought we were going to pull away and win the game. It really felt as though Westbrook had turned the entire game around. Then Maxi Kleber came in, and the Mavs went small. And it became, a 5-out kind of scheme. And Luka and Kyrie targeting Harden and Norm. And on the first play, Norm got scored on by P.J. Washington. Then Kawhi Leonard ruined a Russ offensive rebound on a Zubac's jump hook miss by taking a terrible contested 3 with 8 seconds on the shot clock over Washington. Terrible by Kawhi. That is not Russ. That's you taking a bad shot. But again, if he's healthy, he makes it. I don't like the process. PG comes in for Russ when we're up 73-69, and Russ has completely turned this game around. Immediately, the Mavericks go on a 7-0 run. Zoo gets a turnover by not finding Kawhi on the cut fast enough. Then Norm gets attacked again. We double because we don't trust him in isolation against Luka. And P.J. Washington hits a 3 and breaks his drought that ended up... Well, what ended the drought was scoring on Norman Powell. So, again, we talked about if we want to play Harden and Norm against the good teams down the stretch in the playoffs, are they going to be able to hold their own defensively? My answer is holding their own, yes. Is it favorable and ideal? No. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, Norm had a good look at a 3, missed it. Luka then had James on an ISO, and Russ doubled 1 pass away. Again, off of Kyrie Irving. That was a horrible decision by Russ, in my opinion, but it comes from not trusting James in isolation against Luka Doncic. And I think they should have, because he didn't actually do that bad on the ball, as I said. But again, that's the whole thing with Norm, with Harden. You're overcompensating because you don't trust these guys one-on-one on an island. And meanwhile, Luka Doncic is locking up Kawhi. Kawhi had an awful ISO against Luka, and then Norm missed a putback layup, and then we were down 84-76 when P.J. Washington hit another 3. PG then shot an awful step back shot over Luka with 12 on the shot clock. The Mavs went on a 14-0 run, and that was it. No Kawhi burst. Then all of a sudden, Paul George starts going to the basket in the last 4 minutes of the game. Like, it was done. By the way, that was a foul on Kyrie Irving against Kawhi that they didn't call, but it was done. Luka made that step back three over James, and it was like, that was the dagger. You talked a bunch of trash to the crowd. Okay, Luka, we'll see who wins the series, but yeah, the offensive process was bad. We got to move the ball. We got to play through Paul George more, play through Zoo a little bit, play Russell Westbrook more. I'm not saying that stretch that, they went on a 7-0 run and they pulled Russ out was the difference. We went small for a sec. When Zoo came out, we went small with the big four and Norm. But then we took Norm out and put Zoo back in. That was our best lineup actually in this game, was the big four plus Zoo, which was so bad in the regular season. But I don't know, situational, momentum. Sometimes each game has its own story. But yeah, I don't know. More Westbrook is needed. Kawhi will be fine. The encouraging thing, Clipper Nation, the very encouraging thing is we shot so badly. We still got some good looks. 37% from the field and 27 from three. Kawhi looked like that, and we only lost by 3 in a game in which Luka and Kyrie each scored 23-plus points, and P.J. Washington had 18, and Lively had a good game. I'll take it. We just got to win one in Dallas. Comes down to that. But I'll be doing a preview of that game coming up. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Check out my video of my experience at the game. And Locked On Clippers. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. The age-old proverb continues. Don't lose faith, Clipper Nation. I think we're still going to win this series. Go Clippers.